Today we are going to talk about how to order rational numbers. We've already ordered integers using the number line, so today we're going to talk about these rational numbers. So remember when we're working with negatives are a little bit special, so I want you guys to remember a couple of things that we've already talked about. When you have negatives, you think about how far away from zero the negative number is. The further away from zero, the less the value is. The closer the negative number is to zero, the greater the value. Remember, the ones that are closer to zero are greater, the ones that are left or to the further away, are less. When comparing negative numbers, you kind of think of the opposite of positives. Okay, so those are some helpful hints just to remind us how to use these negatives here. Okay. All right, now it's asking us to place the following numbers in order from smallest to largest. So remember, the smaller numbers are further to the left on the number line. So really our smallest number is our bigger negative. So the numbers we have are negative 9 8/10, negative 98, negative 98 hundredths, and negative 980. So 980 is the biggest number, but it's negative, so it's opposite. So that's going to be our smallest number. So negative 980 is going to be the furthest to the left on our number line. Then what's going to come next is going to be negative 98, and then negative 9.8, and then negative 98 hundredths. Okay, so that's not too bad. So really in this one, we're just looking at where our decimal point was, and that was helping us to answer those. Okay. In our next one, we're going to place them in descending order. Descending means going down. So we're going to go from greatest to least. So the one that's closest to zero is going to go first. So I'm going to look at the number that's before our decimal place. We have negative 102, negative 0, negative 1, negative 10 before our decimal place. I'm not worrying about what's after. So 0 is closest to 0. So that means my first number is going to be negative 0.1028. The thing that comes next as we work our way left would be negative 1. So negative 1.028. Okay, and then as we keep going, negative 10 is going to come next. So negative 10 and 28 hundredths. And then last is going to be negative 102. So negative 102 and 8 tenths. Okay, so all I did was start closest to 0 on my number line, and then I worked my way out and saw what I was going to run into next. Okay, now the next one we have is fractions here. And fractions get a little more difficult. Okay, so we're going to place them in order from greatest to least. So greatest means closest to 0 again. Okay, so we want whichever one is closest to 0. So that means it's going to be one of these that does not have a number in front of them. But be careful, because 9 over 4 is really equal to what? 9/4, and I'm going to add a text box here to help myself. 4 goes into 9 twice, so it's really -2, and then there's going to be 1 left over out of 4. So it's really -2 and 1/4. So I'm going to write that right above it so that I know, and you guys can add that text box there too to help you. Okay, so -2 and 1/4. So the first thing I'm going to worry about is these two right here, -1 over 24 and -24 over 25. So I know 24 over 25 is almost 1 whole, and I know 1 out of 24 is a really small amount. So that tells me that 1 out of 24 is going to be closer to 0. So negative 1 out of 24 is going to go first. And then negative 24 out of 25 is going to go next because that one's closer to 1. Okay, now we can worry about these two mixed numbers. They both have a negative 2 in front, so we're going to do the same thing. I know 1/4 is equal to 0.25, and I know 2/5 is equal to 0.8. So that means 0.2 would be closer to 0. So we're going to say negative 2 and 1/4. And then we're going to say negative 2 and 4/5. Okay. And that is our numbers in order. Okay. Now, with the next one, we're going to have to do them in order again. Okay. And it's just like the one we just did, but the first thing I want you to do is change this negative 15 over 4. It's improper, so I'm going to add a text box again, and I'm going to change it to a proper or a mixed number. So 4 goes into 15 3 whole times, and then there would be 3 left over out of 4. So it is 3 3/4 is what that number is actually. Okay. So now I want you guys to pause the video and you guys try this one on your own and see how you do. All right, make sure you remember when you're doing this that ascending order means going up. So that means you're starting with the lowest number and working your way back towards 0. So you should have negative 4 and 7/8, negative 4 and 1/9, 15 over 4, and negative 3 and 4/6. Notice I put negative 15 over 4 and I did not use the mixed number that we created. I used the original number in the problem. So make sure you guys be careful when you guys are doing that. Now go back to Schoology and you guys have a discussion question to answer for today.